Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm bringing my take on Cooler for set 2. I think Cooler's a very strong deck in set 2, don't get me wrong. I don't know how I feel compared to Frieza and Vegeta. I do think that they are slightly better. Obviously one is really heavy on the defensive side, being the Vegeta. One is kind of like a hybrid balance leader. It's kind of strange with Frieza because he is a defensive leader, but he's also very offensive as well. Cooler was always, I suppose Cooler and Ginyu were both the sort of aggro decks of last set, but the more I played Cooler in set 1, the more I realised that just running a mid-range build rather than the Ginyu Force stuff just always seemed better. As soon as you run into a Broly, the Ginyu Force just becomes impossible to deal with. You can never really get out attackers, plus because you're a crit leader rather than a draw leader on your unawakened side, it was always a bit harder just to try and keep up that pressure. So it was always quite an interesting one for me, but I've built a list for Cooler that I think is definitely going to be strong. Without actual testing though, without actually running some games with this leader, I don't know how particularly strong this deck would be, but I think it's a very good starting point. So I'm going to go through just from sort of beginning. For those of you who don't know, Cooler is a critical leader, meaning he is a 20k when he's attacking, he's 20k. He doesn't draw an attack, and obviously, like usual with all crit leaders in set 1, you awaken at 4 or less, you draw a card and flip over. He is an active main / active battle on his awakened side, where we can discard a card and we can choose a Frieza clan or Frieza army, I think it's Frieza clan specific, with a cost of 4 or less, and then we can switch it to active mode, meaning we can do that on both players' turns. We just have to be careful because we are discarding cards from hand, and obviously you kind of leave yourself quite vulnerable at that stage. And also he draws 1 on an attack, like all crit leaders as well. So we run 4 Sorbeys, mainly because we need to keep up our draw. It's a cantrip for the earlier turns, maybe in the later turns as well. If we don't have full use of our energy, we can maybe just, get a 5k combo on the board, just cycle through our deck a little bit. It has its use, but beyond that, that's kind of it. Plus it's a Frieza's army, not that the Ginyu stuff is going to really come up. We also run this Frieza. On play, being able to rest one of our opponent's battle cards is really strong. It's a 10k combo as well. It's not great, but for 1 energy and it being a 10k, it does mean that it is technically a viable threat if in the late game we need to push for that 1 last damage. It's not awesome, but the way I always look at this Frieza, right, is that if I'm playing into blue, right, and they're doing their Pilaf looping and all the shenanigans that comes with that, if we can play Frieza to tap down their Pilaf, and then we combo with this, we're instantly, it's essentially a 20k combo swing just from that effect. It's also why I do quite like the Energy Blast Volley card, or whatever it's called, the extra card, which is just a tap 1, rest all of your opponent's battle cards, which is very strong. It's why I almost think that blockers these days they're not that particularly great. But to be honest, it's purely just for blue. That's why I like that extra card, because I can just tap down all of my opponent's combo power, and blue heavily relies on that offensive combo power, offensive or defensive combo power through the Pilaf. So yeah, so I still think that this Frieza is still definitely viable. I would definitely run this at 4. We also run 4 Bulmas. Like all crit leaders, I actually think that only poking for 1 or 2 crit damage at most is the best way to play. You definitely need your draw power. So awakening early as possible, and now with yellow having access to a 1 cost self-awakener is very strong. There is also the secondary abilities of Bulma where, we can switch it to rest, and then we can either rest a battle card 4 or less, or if we have a battle card already in rest mode with a cost of 3 or more, we draw a card. So she's also a draw engine, which is again what this deck needs. The only problem is that we can't untap her. Like Frieza can untap her for free. We don't have this because Cooler does not affect this card. So it's not going to be like the best option, but it's definitely needed for those early turns just to get that self-awaken. Then after that, if she comes up, she comes up. If not, then it doesn't really matter. We run 3 Zarbons. Again, it's just a 2 cost self-awakener. No other reason for it pretty much. We run 4 of the Friezas. Once again, it's just one of Yellow's best self-awakeners. Being able to rest something 3 or less is always very helpful. We run 3 Nays as well. Again, the blocker doesn't really ever come up with this card. I just think that you're better off always attacking with these cards. It depends on the matchup, of course, but these cards are more likely either going to get rested, returned to hand, or KO'd. It just doesn't particularly matter. So I'm not that fond of keeping Nays, particularly for the block effect, but it is also a 10k combo, which is very handy. we run 2 Quees. I definitely think in this leader it's still very useful. I think that us going into green now, we still need the green protection. We need the out to Broly, we need the out to Cell, we need the out to the Android, so to speak. Qui is a way to get us there. So for me, you just can't really drop this card in yellow as of yet. Again, we'll see how the format shapes up because we might not actually see a whole lot of green, but I still think we'll see a fair amount of it. But just in case we do, we run the Qui at 2. If not, we can always cut this for something else. I'm gonna, before I go over the Vegeta card, everybody here will notice that I don't run the Ginyu. We're now through our 2 costs. One of the reasons why I didn't run the Ginyu is 1, because of deck space, but 2, it really doesn't lend all that well into this deck in particular because we don't run a whole lot of Frieza Clan cards or Frieza Army cards. We do run quite a few, don't get me wrong, you know, between these 2 and these 2, like, and Qui as well, I suppose. We do have quite a lot of them. It's just, I can't guarantee I'm going to have this set up at the turn I really want to play Ginyu. And honestly, a 5k combo in hand isn't particularly great at 4 copies, and if you're not going to run Ginyu at 4 copies, I don't really see the point in running them at all. It depends if obviously if you're running a Frieza list and you know maybe you only have access to 2 or 3, but I just think in Cooler it's just not all that important. It is a way for us to build a wide board, and obviously we can still, you know, play out a Ginyu 20k attacker for no energy, which is still great, don't get me wrong, but I just don't know how apparent it's going to be going into the next set. So that might be a change. We might try and cut some ratios to fit Ginyu back in. But honestly, I don't know. I just think that because this build in particular doesn't run a whole lot of Frieza Army cards, I'm just not particularly interested in Ginyu this set. That's just the way I see it. But we'll go through the Vegeta now. So the permanent is all of our restable battle cards can't be KO'd by our opponent's skills, which is very strong. On play is a Self-Awakener, and then we can play 1 battle card with a cost of 1 or less from our hand, meaning that we can play any of these 3. Bulma being the obvious choice, just because we can do the rest, you know, attack with Vegeta, do her active battle to rest or draw a card. There's no reason not to, it's very good, but we can also, on attack, we get to play the Frieza. So if our opponent has a blocker, and again, this one as well also does target 4 or less to switch to rest, but sometimes I would just rather have the draw, but again, we can use her pretty much for the same reason we use him. You know, we can just rest down one of their blockers, or we can rest down one of their battle cards that we want to try and remove, or even lock down later on. So yeah, so I like this Vegeta and the Bulma combo for sure, in Cooler. And then we run 3 of these cards. Now, this is another one that could be interesting. The main reason it's in here, honestly, is because it is an additional 10k combo. It might come up quite a few times. But on your turn, we can use our leader effect to untap this card, which will then proc his skill to lock down one of our opponent's battle cards. Obviously with a cost of 4 or less, I should say. So there is that. That's pretty much the only reason. There's not really too much. Like, I hate the idea of tapping 3 for a 20k. It's not particularly strong. It's the same with the Vegeta, but at least you're getting a bit more out of it. He is a 10k combo again, like I say, so he's very strong in that regard. We want to try and stack the deck with 10ks where we can. Because I do believe that 25k is going to be like the most likely go-to number unless our opponent's comboing, so there's a lot of 25k battle cards coming out this set as well. So there is definitely reason for this card in here. However relevant it is, the thing is it's only during your turn, right? So had this been on either player's turn, this card would have been an absolute 4-of. It's ridiculous. We could just untap it on both turns. Yeah, so he's still a good card. It's just, again, how useful it'll be in Cooler, I don't particularly know. We have to expend something to get that lockdown, and it might be worth it, but it might not be. I just think that into Top Coup, because they're going to build a wide board, we don't have a strong way of clearing it in this deck. Being able to lock their battle cards down for additional turns is definitely the way to go, so that's why he's in here. We only run 2 Coolers. Cooler is another one that I think is maybe fell away from the meta just a little bit, not a whole lot. But I think for this leader, because we have so many good tools now, I don't think we need to run this at 4, or even at 3. I think 2 is a fine number. You know, we get to rest and KO battle cards that are 2 or less on block and on attack, so it's definitely there, and it is, you know, valuable. But I just don't think I would want to run more than 2 copies based on this deck, and I'll show you the full list in a second. 4 Goku's the best card in yellow now. This is by far the best card in yellow. 10k combo, 25k attacker, on play and on attack, we can lock 2 battle cards the turn he's played, and then every turn after that we're locking a battle card. As long as he survives, of course. But yeah, this for me is just the better turn 4 play over Cooler now. So I would much rather see the Goku over the Cooler, depending on the matchup, of course, but more than likely I would still rather see this. We still run 2 Freezers because, again, it is a 4-cost Freezer clan that our leader can untap, so we can either make it dual attack, we can untap it during our opponent's battle phase as well, meaning that we can defend it a lot easier, so it's still one of the best cards for Cooler. My only gripe was maybe this could be at 3, but in terms of cutting, Kui right now is up on the chopping board as a possibility, but because we're not an aggro deck anymore, I play this as more mid-range. I think Kui's still needed to deal with that green. So yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. Again, the ratios will be tested, and if there's something I don't like about it, we can obviously amend it. 3 Golden Freezers, it's just a game finisher pretty much. He's still absolutely snapped, so no reason not to run this card. We run 1 Secret Rare. I said this for Frieza, that I didn't particularly like tapping out for this card, and I still don't. But I don't know. I'm not sure if it's still maybe a one-off in Frieza as well. Maybe. I don't think I would run more than that, honestly. Like, between the Cooler, the Golden Frieza, and the Golden Frieza, we run a lot of 0Ks again, you know, where it's 6 between just these lot here. I think 6 is too many, especially because we run extra cards as well, so I'm not sure. Once again, I'm not really too sure how I feel about this, but tapping 6 for this card, while yes, we can shut off our opponent's turns, the only real massive threats that I'm really concerned about would be green, but Kui does that already for us. Blue, to be fair, they can get around playing their 5 cost, you know, they'll just play out weenies and Pilaf loop you, and you know what I mean, they'll just get under that 5 energy restriction, they just won't really care about it. Red, again, they can play with 4 cost, 3 cost, 2 cost, they don't care. They really don't care about this card all that much. Yellow, once again, I don't really think it impacts yellow all that much. It hits these 2, that's pretty much it. It's not really anything else it hits. So Golden Frieza for me is while yes, his effect is ridiculously strong, but outside of Vegeta, because Vegeta untaps 2 energy, meaning that we have full defensive capability after that, I'm not so bothered about running it in Vegeta, but in both Cooler and in Frieza, we're kind of limited, because if we tap 6 for this card, our turn's over. And like I said, I do run extra cards in here, which we'll go over in a second, meaning that that extra card is now a dead card in hand the turn we play this. So it can be a bit dangerous to play this. That's the only thing I'll say. So it's in here for now as a one-off, but that might change. And then 4 supers, again, we've just went with Chi-Lai for no other reason. You can pick whichever super you want, doesn't really matter. And then we run 2 Time Rewound. Time Rewound is essentially our leader skill in a nutshell, apart from we have to pay an energy and we get a 20k buff, right? So it's very strong. We get to active battle, choose either our leader or a battle card, and it gets plus 20k power, and then we choose one of our battle cards and switch it to active. So if our opponent decides to swing into, I don't know, let's say Vegeta or Goku or even this Frieza, for example, we have a 20k buff, plus we can restand it, meaning that they can no longer attack into it, which I think is the main reason. This was honestly, for me, I was tempted to cut the Golden Frieza to put this to 3, and if I'm going to cut anything for an additional Time Rewound, this for me is the best choice. Again, I don't feel like we particularly need it for this build. Again, in Vegeta it works, but in this leader and in Frieza, I'm still unsure about it. That's just the only thing I can really say. And then we have 2 Supernovas as well. Again, Yellow has moved to a sort of lockdown playstyle now between this Frieza, between the Goku, Supernova. We can, you know, Golden Frieza, for example, like we can just lock our opponent's battle cards out of existence. So once again, I'm not particularly against running this at 3. I think you could, but because we run Time Rewound, I don't want to go more than 4 extra cards, and I think for me the 2-2 ratio is fine. I don't really see an issue with that. There is maybe an argument for this to go to 3 and keep this at 2 and then cut the Golden Frieza as well, for example, but again, testing will sort of tell us what the best ratios are, and obviously hopefully we'll get some tournament reports soon as well, so we can sort of see just how people are doing. I have been looking at there is a website where we can look at events from Asia, because I know that they've already had a couple of events with the sets out and stuff, and obviously I think people post their locals deck profiles and stuff like that that they've won with, so there's definitely decks out there. I haven't seen a cooler list topping yet, so I can't. I'm only just looking at this from my perspective of what I think the deck should look like. Again, when I get the time to test, we'll see how the deck actually performs and what it looks like at that stage. But for now, I think this is fine. I think it's a great starting point. Obviously, I'm always open for criticism, discussion. If people think that I shouldn't run something, or if people entirely disagree with me on the Golden Frieza, feel free to put it in the comments. It's always about just trying to open this discussion up and try to feed off the community and see what people think are the best play lines and what they think Cooler should look like going into the next set. Like I say, I dropped the Ginyu entirely. I just don't think it's really needed. Yes, it's a free battle card where we get to attack with a 20k, but honestly, beyond that, it's for me the issue is the setup, right? When I look at this list, there's not a whole lot of setup there for the Ginyu. You know, by the time we play the Ginyu, unless this is already on board, we're not playing the Ginyu in the same turn as this, or this, or this. So, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. There might be ways where we could definitely fit it in. I just don't think we're going to get all that much use out of it. Again, we run 4, 8, 11, 15, and then again we can include the Quees as well, but I tend not to. But yeah, so we do run a lot of them. I just, for deck space wise, I don't know where I would fit Ginyu in. I really don't know what I would cut to put it in. I just think that Vegeta offers a little bit more. I know it costs 1 more energy, but Cooler's lack of hand size has always been its downfall, and being able to get essentially a free way into the Bulma to then draw a card as well. And unlikely, but if Bulma somehow survives the turn, we can turn it into a draw engine similar to the Ginyu, where we just, you know, keep resting it and keep drawing. That's kind of the idea. So we're kind of forcing our opponent to choose between either killing this card or, let's say, killing this. You know, if they have an effect that just kills battle cards, or you know, Red's power to minus cards. You know, if we're up against Beerus and they choose to use the -10 on the leader on this, that's a 10k that they're not going to have. If they use the -5 from the hit on this, again, it's a -5 they don't have access to. So for me, I think this is a good starting point anyway, and this will probably be the list I will start with, unless I see any other deck profiles out there around Cooler that have sort of given me some inspiration. But I think this is the starting point anyway, and we'll see where we go from there. But I hope you've all enjoyed the video, and I hope you've all enjoyed all of these deck profiles over the last week or so. UK is unfortunately where I am. We just got announced that we're not getting the set now until roughly the middle of June, which sucks ass, but obviously we do have access to the digital client, so I was hoping to, because I obviously play the physical game, so I was hoping to use the codes from my boxes in here, just to obviously, in the digital client, to save me from having to buy packs, but unfortunately it looks like I'm going to have to whale out on some packs to try and get some good content out for you guys. Sucks, but nothing we can do about it. Just got to take it on the chin and move forward. But yeah, guys, I hope you've all enjoyed it, and I hope you've enjoyed this Cooler deck profile as well. Like I say, if you have any discussion points, just hit me up in the comments and we can go through it. But thank you all again for watching. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.